There you go. Hello everyone. Today we will be talking to the dog, which is a way of saying things that perhaps are judgmental to a degree that most people would find it unacceptable to say, but perhaps many people agree with. We'll start off simple and controversial so that the haters can leave right away. Asking a dog if said dog is a good girl. I just want to show you how stupid that sounds. Cadence, are you a good girl? I just asked a question that not only can she not comprehend because she only understands good girl as praise from the people she lives with, but I also asked a question to a dog, period. And as you might know, you might have heard this in the scientific journals, dogs can't actually answer questions. Which is interesting because people ask questions to their dogs all the time. And in fact, they talk to their dogs all the time. I talk to this pooch a lot, quite a bit. I'm going to miss her when I eventually have to go home and leave this place. But in the meantime, I am sharing quite a bit with this dog to the point that if she had a microchip with a microphone in it from the FBI, well, I wouldn't go to jail because that's not what I talk about, period. But they would start asking me a lot of questions. And in fact, they'd probably quit their jobs to become paparazzi because everything I say is just so damn interesting. Now, this is obviously a lie because everybody says things that are not interesting at times. But it's not as much of a lie as you might think. See, I've come to the conclusion that we as humans, we moderate ourselves far too much. And in doing so, we take away what makes us human. You ever wonder why it's so hard to make friends, so hard to find people that can easily matter to you? Well, it's because when you try to do that, most of the people you're meeting are moderating themselves. They don't want you to know the real them, and whether that's because societal conditioning or perhaps because of other factors, what you end up realizing is that there are a very small minority of people who don't moderate themselves to the degree that it's very easy to gain a meaningful connection to them. And you've heard it said before, people were more real back in the day. And I say that as if I remember it, which I don't. But it's true. And I think a lot of it comes down to phones. Because when we try to understand the world through the lens of a virtual environment, what you end up running into is the falsehoods that are told by that. What made the old world before phones so special is that people didn't ever have an easy way out. You couldn't search up the answer to a social issue that you were confused about. You had to figure it out the hard way or ask someone who knew something about it. You know, people say it's the same thing now, but truly it's not. Because everything that you read online is from someone else's point of view. unless you read what you publish online, which, not judging, I do it too. It's good for self-reflection. But anyways, the problem with that is that you introduce subjectivity as a very real problem. Because, perhaps rather confusingly, by having everything you look at not influenced by your mind, it causes what you learn to be less objective. And of course, there's a balance between subjective and objective beliefs. Hey, no eating the muck. You don't need to eat moss. It's probably not good for you. Hey, it's probably not good for you. I'm just telling you. Anyways, so the problem with subjectivity in that regard is that it makes you lose your mind, so to speak. And not just in the sense that socially you moderate yourself based on what you've seen online, but also in the sense that objectively, when you're trying to determine information, that information and how you view it is going to be, in a sense, more impacted by what other people have said to you than by your own reasoning. And it's been proved many times, you can't really trust other people's reasoning. And you can't trust your own either. But the thing about it being your own is that you can easily correct for mistakes, because you remember and you know how you got to believe something that was untrue. And what's so special about that is that when you do that, you are given a whole new context as to what you're trying to learn. Like if you've ever been to post-secondary school, like college or university, you'll know that you learn a lot there. You learn a lot of life skills, but most importantly, you learn how to learn. But I feel like that skill is almost limited now because we don't have these hard situations. You know, you can cheat on tests. There isn't really a common test for school that you can't cheat on. And there's strict guidelines, but there's nothing stopping you from taking a test online through a proctor and finding some way to cheat. The online world makes everything accessible to a fault and to our benefit, which makes it extremely important to be mindful of how you use the internet, because you need to understand that everything of the internet is subjective. And of course, there are libraries hosted online, but primarily what you see, unless you're heavily into research, is going to be other people's opinions. So I would just urge you to be mindful of that when you're browsing online, because you could be missing important context that the person who wrote it has that might allow you to realize from your own perspective why what they're saying is either wrong or doesn't apply in the way that you think it does. It's always important to have context in what you read and what you consume, because without that context, it's very easy for beliefs to be formed that have no solid foundation. And this is okay sometimes. Like, for example, when you come to a new religion, I think is a very good example, because in that, when you first learn about it, that belief is very frail. You don't know a lot about it, but you feel that something feels right about it. And part of that is objective, or really subjective reasoning, if we're being honest. But the other part of that is intuition. But when intuition is clouded by a very strong subjectivity of the internet in general and the content that you consume, it makes it very, very difficult to sort out what's right from wrong. Censorship is a huge problem, as is things being edited after they've written. Like, a good example of that is 1984 by George Orwell. The newer copies of it have been edited to be more societally appropriate, which I disagree with, but that's not what this video is about. But while those are issues, censorship and changing things after they were written, the bigger issue remains, and probably will always remain unless humanity has a significant crisis in that regard: the subjectivity of everything you see online. You know, you watch a YouTube video about something and it can feel like they're speaking so confidently they have to be right about it. And it doesn't actually matter whether they're well-researched or not, because it's still subjective. What someone else has determined is still subjective. So the ways I've found to combat this are threefold. One, taking breaks from your screen. I found this really helpful because it causes you to have to think about things from your perspective. You can't search it up. And maybe in, a week, if you take a week-long break, or 2 weeks, on day 10, for example, you realize like, hey, I hadn't thought about this from this perspective, but I think this thing actually works like this. Which generally is correct, because I think the best and the most accurate thoughts are formed over time and aren't just instant epiphanies. And epiphanies have their place, but when we're talking more about the understanding of the world at large and not just understanding of yourself, it is important to mull over things and not try and make them fit into your current beliefs. The second thing that I would consider to be most beneficial is to always research things. It's so easy because not only do you hear all the time in the news and other sources, trust the experts, but you also, because of that, tend to stop really searching for the right answers. You don't search up things anymore, and your opinions tend to become grounded in what someone else has told you. Shh. You don't need a bark. You don't need a bark, Cadence. It's okay. And the problem with this, even for people that are well-researched and do try and determine things in that regard, is that the very nature of subjectivity is that it sneaks in. It's not something that you can just be like, this opinion is subjective, this opinion is based on actual evidence, because you don't know until you have the context. So while it is extremely beneficial to have all of this research, what would be more beneficial is to have the context of the person saying it, so that the inherent subjectivity of things said online is somewhat mediated. And the third aspect that I think helps to not allow this to become such an issue is, when you're reading things online, ask questions. And I don't mean ask questions to the person who made it, because generally you're not going to be able to just have a conversation with them. I mean ask questions to yourself. Constantly question what you're reading, because even if it is a topic that you know precious little about, you're still human, you still have logical reasoning, and because of this, that questioning can lead to a deeper understanding. And not only a deeper understanding, but like I said, a more accurate understanding. I hope you learned something from this video, and have a great rest of your day. Dogs will treat literally anything as a treat. This is hilarious. Watch. Cadence, say please. Sit. Say please. There you go. See, she thinks that's candy. To her, anything that you're holding is candy. You could probably make her say please for a small nuclear bomb. I don't know if they make handheld nuclear bombs, but That's probably something you could do. I just thought it was funny. I'm learning stuff about dogs because I'm now living with a dog, and I love this pooch. Right, well, that's the end of the video. Bye. Bloopers time. No, this way. Cadence, I have something for you. Come, come. Sit. Lie down. Hey, lie down. Lie down. That works too. You ready, Cadence? You can't have it yet. Hey. Cadence, what are you doing? Hey, hey, not yet. Hey, what are you doing? That's still not enough length. Okay, are you ready? Cadence, lie down. Lie down. There you go. No, you stay close. Cadence. Hey. Hey. Did you really just... Oh. Rats. Hey. Come over here.